Susan Boyle may have dreamed a dream, but it was definitely turned to shame in more ways than one. Her tragic story is enough to make even the hardest of us shed a tear. Susan Boyle's health issues actually began before birth. Her mother, Bridget, was 45 when she became pregnant with her in 1960. The risk of maternal death was so high that doctors advised termination. Bridget, staunchly religious, carried the child to term. Complications developed during the pregnancy, and Bridget was diagnosed with preeclampsia, a variety of high blood pressure that can immediately threaten the life of an unborn child. Susan told The Guardian, "We both nearly died, and she was told I'd suffer brain damage as a result of being starved of oxygen at birth." Subsequently, the singer grew up believing that her medically chaotic birth was the source of her learning issues. In 2012, when Susan was in her 50s, she sought out a specialist to get a more accurate picture. Turns out her bouts of depression and mood shifts and her difficulty with social situations all stem from autism. She told The Guardian, "I thought I had a more serious illness and couldn't function properly. Now I have a clearer understanding of what's wrong, and I feel relieved and a bit more relaxed about myself."
Got no kids?
Oh, come on then. Can I get you a cuddle?
Whatever you want.
You're beautiful. I've been waiting for this for ages.
Raised in Blackburn, Scotland in the 1960s and 1970s, Susan was the youngest child of Bridget and Patrick Boyle. Patrick had anger problems and acted out with violence. Unfortunately, it was Susan who bore the brunt of his outbursts while she was young. It took years for her to process the experience. She told the Daily Mail, "My father, though a very good man, had a temper. He showed it to me and he hurt me. He didn't mean to, but I held on to this for years, and when he was dying, I had to let it go." Relatives believe that Patrick developed his tendencies toward violence and abuse after his time spent fighting in World War II. Patrick also prevented Susan from pursuing a romantic life. At the age of 25, she was in a relationship with a man until her father ended it on her behalf. She explained, "My dad didn't like him. He said he wasn't right for me. I was in love with him, but he made someone else pregnant soon after. My dad decided that particular boy was not for me, and I was too immature to handle a relationship." Sadly, the emotional and physical abuse she suffered didn't stop with her home life. Throughout her childhood in Scotland, Boyle dealt with frequent bullying from her classmates. As a child, she was diagnosed with epilepsy, a neurological issue that was often poorly understood at the time. She told the Daily Mail Weekend, "They called me touchy. At school, I used to faint a lot." That earned some torment, as did the idea that Boyle was significantly less intelligent than her peers. Classmates gave her a nickname of a derisive, racist nature, as well as one that targeted her learning disabilities and perceived lack of intelligence. Some local teenagers would intimidate her and even throw rocks and paper strips that they'd lit on fire. At least she sometimes fought back, as she said in the ITV documentary Susan Boyle, An Unlikely Superstar.
One day I got fed up with it and gave her a good sound pacing.
You fought back?
I could fight back when I needed to.
Boyle's triumphant historic performance on Britain's Got Talent in 2009 wasn't the first time the singer tried to use reality TV to boost her musical career. More than a decade before that successful attempt, she auditioned for another televised talent show, where she was summarily mocked by the host in front of a large crowd. English comedian and presenter Michael Barrymore hosted a short-lived show in 1995 called My Kind of People, where he visited towns in Britain and invited locals to show off their talents. When the roadshow came to Olympia Shopping Centre in East Kilbride, Scotland, Boyle tried twice to land a spot on the show. Once, while Boyle tried to sing I Don't Know How to Love Him from Jesus Christ Superstar in front of spectators and other hopefuls, she endured Barrymore lobbing jokes at her expense the entire time. At one point, he got on the ground and tried to peer underneath Boyle's skirt. She lightly kicked him and he kissed her. And after all that, Boyle wasn't selected to perform on TV. In the late 1990s, Boyle experienced successive personal setbacks, one in her romantic life and the other a profound loss that reshaped her existence. During her first slot on Britain's Got Talent, Boyle described herself as such.
But I've never been married. Never been kissed. Oh, shame.
She later admitted, however, that the latter statement wasn't entirely true, as she'd been in relationships before. She told the Daily Mail, "I had a boyfriend, John, who worked in an office. He asked me to marry him after 7 weeks, although we'd only ever had a peck on the cheek. Unfortunately, John subsequently broke off the engagement and the relationship ended." Boyle said, "It made me sad in a way. It makes you feel unattractive. You feel that life is passing you by." And if that isn't sad enough, Boyle's father, Patrick, was diagnosed with multiple serious health problems in his advanced age, including respiratory issues, a form of cancer, and Alzheimer's disease. He died in 1999 at the age of 83. Susan recalled, "There was no change in my family until then. At a time like that, you can either be strong or go to pieces. I'd lost a father, but my mother had lost a lifelong partner." Boyle was raised as part of a large family in Scotland.
10 people sharing one bathroom. That's quite
That used to be fighting in the morning, I can assure you.
Her 8 older siblings eventually all moved out, but she didn't. After the death of her father, the future star stayed behind to care for her aged mother. For about 8 years, she served as her mother's live-in primary caregiver. When her mother died in 2007 at age 91, Boyle grew despondent. In the immediate aftermath of the death, she refused to leave her house for several days at a time and wouldn't answer the phone or allow visitors. Her mother's encouragement and death would inspire Boyle's next steps. She told The Guardian, "I felt a part of me had died with her, and I was also in danger of losing our family home because I wasn't working. I was totally lost, but then I remembered how she always told me to follow what makes me happy." Boyle's 2009 audition for Britain's Got Talent was the first time she'd sung in public since her mother died. She told The Times, "I was left really upset because of the bereavement I had and decided to give up singing. Up until then, I was singing in the church choir and doing karaoke regularly, but I just didn't feel up to it after that." Despite being probably the most famous act to ever emerge from any iteration of the Got Talent franchise, Susan didn't win her season of Britain's Got Talent. She came in second to a dance troupe called Diversity.
Diversity!
Immediately after the grueling weeks-long televised contest came to an end in May 2009, Boyle voluntarily checked into the Priory, a mental health treatment facility in London. She officially sought help to deal with exhaustion, but underwent an evaluation following reports that her behavior and mood had drastically changed after intense and invasive media scrutiny. It was such a sensitive matter that the UK's Press Complaints Commission asked local news outlets to refrain from sharing any details of her health crisis at the urging of her management. Susan explained the ordeal to the Daily Mail. "Everything had built up and I was exhausted. You have to understand, my life ceased to be normal when Britain's Got Talent went live. There were a lot of press people outside my door, a lot of television people, a lot of people who wanted a piece of me." She further described the frightening experience, saying, "I had to draw my blinds, and even after that, they started hammering on my door. I didn't have any security then. It was just me and one of the BGT production team who had been sent up to stay nearby for me." In early March 2020, Boyle played a rigorous mini-tour of 8 concerts in 11 days at major theaters in Scotland, Wales, and England. Those would mark her last concerts for years, and she didn't record an album during this time period either. In June 2023, she returned to public life with an encore performance of I Dreamed a Dream on Britain's Got Talent. She shared the reason why she hadn't been seen in so long and why the performance was so important to her, and admitted that she'd suffered a minor stroke but wasn't about to let that stop her.
And I thought that crazy to go back on stage, and I have done it.
Well, we are thrilled that
After the show, Boyle gave more details about the stroke and her lengthy 15-month recovery to regain some of her temporarily lost abilities. She wrote on her Instagram page, "For the past year, I've worked so hard to get my speech and singing back, with the sole aim of being able to sing on stage again." Boyle comports herself with a certain level of dignity and reserve, and she prefers to sing show tunes and standards, including one of the best covers of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, to an appreciative audience with conservative taste. That's why it was so shocking and potentially embarrassing when an internet provocateur took aim at the singer by uploading some incongruously edgy material to her Spotify channel. In September 2023, Boyle's fans and followers on the music streaming giant noticed that the best-selling singer had apparently uploaded her first new recording in several years. That song is presented across album art to pink leopard print, Anal Queen. After the incident started to trend on social media, Spotify quickly removed the song and dismissed it as a hoax. It's believed that the title choice referred to a PR disaster from years earlier. In 2012, Boyle's promotions team tried to get social media attention for the release of the singer's standing ovation, The Greatest Songs from the Stage, with a virtual listening event it promoted with the hashtag Susan Album Party. All those words on their own are innocent, but jumbled together and read differently, they inadvertently formed a dirty joke, leading to a thorough roasting of the singer and her team on Twitter, now known as X, of course. If you or someone you know may be the victim of child abuse, contact the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD, 1-800-422-4453, or contact their live chat services.